Welcome in. Here's a thought. The things you do for yourself are gone when you're gone, but the things you do for others remain as your legacy. Kalu nuduque kalu. I didn't know what to talk with you about here today. This week has really taken me down in ways that I didn't expect. Now, unfortunately, a lot of it had to do with the truly nasty comments people were making in response to a Facebook post that I put up on Tuesday, I guess it was, that said, "It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, famous or a nobody. What reasons did I have to be depressed? None. But I was, and I didn't know how to stop it." Now, I'm not going to get into the whole Meghan and Harry and Oprah interview with you here. You've either seen it and formed your own opinion, and I'm sure not going to try bothering to change that, or you haven't seen it, which tells me you don't care. That's okay. But I will say this. When the 99-year-old Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip, finally leaves this world, which could be in a week or 10 years, who knows, Meghan Markle will be blamed by the press and a lot of people who read or believe it. That's where we are today, and it depresses the hell out of me. But enough about that. Not my chickens, not my farm. I do want to talk about some older folks, just plain folks like you and me, who've come into my heart in the last several months. Since Rob and I started delivering hot and frozen meals to a local community center to seniors who didn't want to or couldn't go out during COVID, I've begun to make connections that even I didn't know were there. And until last month, I didn't realize how strong they'd become. It started with a lady named Anne, one part of a couple, Anne and John, to whom I'd deliver a big paper bag each week, opening a tiny gate and walking the few steps to their row house. Every Thursday, we'd exchange a few words, and Anne was unfailingly grateful and would tell me every week, her eyes so expressive, as she told me what those deliveries meant to her. I could only put my hand to my heart and say it was our pleasure. Sometimes when we'd call ahead to let them know just exactly when we were coming, Rob would talk to Anne and John's son, who would be visiting, from where we never did learn. When I met him, I did tease the son that with his shiny bald pate, he surely shared his father's hairstylist, and he laughed. How alike they looked. My own dad, who's had very little hair since his early 20s, would have laughed too. And then a few weeks ago, we got an email with our delivery list, and Anne's name wasn't on it. Feeling worried, Rob wrote to our community center contact and asked if she was okay. They told us yes, and Anne had been moved into a care facility. When we made that solo delivery to John the next day, their son told us that Anne was in great hands. John, his eyes watery, said that she was doing really well. He gratefully accepted the food package, plus the card that we had written in and sealed to tell him our hearts were with him and to give his dear Anne our love when next he saw her, which I realize now with COVID was probably not at all. Those same hearts, Rob's and mine, sank only 2 weeks later when John's name wasn't on our delivery list. This time the news was what we dreaded. Sweet John, with his walker and his soft British accent, had died. A broken heart, we can only guess. But now this couple, with whom really we'd only had the briefest of exchanges but had formed what we felt was a connection, was gone. We reminded ourselves that in plain demographics, it can only be logical and natural, really, that some of the people to whom we delivered won't be at their door the longer we continue to do this. It is logical, but that doesn't make it easier. One woman with gorgeous blue-green eyes shared with me last week that her cancer had returned, and then, as I took in that news, asked for my hairdresser's name. She did make the appointment, and I'll find out later today how she liked my Jude. Another recipient now has a caregiver answer the door, as she recently suffered a broken shoulder. And when I went in to put the package on her kitchen counter, I asked the dear tiny lady how she was feeling. And she answered, "Who are you?" So perhaps there's a connection that was only ever one-sided, but I'm okay with that. I never expect more than a hello, and even though we've been given a bottle of wine and some chocolates at Christmas from a few of the folks to whom we deliver, the real gifts have been knowing that we're doing even the smallest thing to remind these people, seniors and valued contributors to and members of our society, that they matter and that they're cared for, that we remember they're there and we notice when they're not. And so each time we get our delivery list emailed to us, we check to see whose name is missing and wonder if they're okay. They may never know what they mean to us, these 14 or so seniors that Rob and I encounter every Thursday, but I can assure you it's more than we mean to them. And that's an imbalance I am more than happy to encourage. Have a gentle weekend, my friend. Remember, your clocks go ahead this Saturday night, and we'll be back with you here on Monday. You pick the time. Okay.